We're live.
For everybody on the west coast of North America, good morning. For everyone either on the east coast or in Europe or Asia or Australia, good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to Digital Agency Day. It's been, we started last night with a late evening event here in Canada for all of our friends in Australia, and this is our first event of the day.
Yeah, so I'm Justin, I'm also from Unbounce, and I figured I would give everybody a quick briefer on what exactly you signed up for today. So we are going to be going over the digital agency landscape and specifically trends for 2016. In terms of why we put this together, it's January. You're likely involved in some sort of planning, whether it's for your actual agency or if it's for your clients. Could be a new CRM tool that you're evaluating, a time tracking tool. Maybe you're evaluating a new service you want to offer, or maybe even how you're going to structure your fees for the year. So knowing this, we wanted to help, but specifically with giving you some perspective on what your clients want, what your prospects want, and even more interestingly, what your peers are doing. Because let's be honest, agency folk, you guys are a competitive bunch. And it's probably unlikely that you're going to go grab one of your fellow agencies and talk about trends and planning for the year. So that's kind of what we're here for. So that being said, we're super excited to bring you 4 folks from the Society of Digital Agencies, also known as SODA. And SODA is a global network for innovators creating the future of digital experiences. Their members include top agencies, and we have 4 folks from those top agencies here with us today, as well as elite production companies. They're also the creator of the SODA report, which I highly recommend that you guys check out right after this. It's actually one of the most respected digital trend publications in the world. And just as an FYI, we're going to make their 2015 report and their 2016 report, which is going to be available soon, available to everybody that's attending this session today. And we're very excited because we brought them here to highlight the 2016 agency trends that are going to best inform your most critical planning decisions for the upcoming year. So we're very excited to have everybody here, and just as our last FYI, this is officially our most registered for event of the day. So welcome everybody.
All right, so now so far as the event that you signed up for, we have a panel, as Justin mentioned, with 4 absolute veterans from the digital agency industry. We're going to be going through a number of questions. The majority of questions were pre-submitted ahead of time, but if you didn't have the chance to pre-submit, or if throughout today's panel you think of any additional questions, you'll see the hashtag in the bottom right corner of this slide, Digital Agency Day. And while we switch over to the Hangout, when you actually get to see all of us, there will be a hashtag in the top right corner. So just keep your eyes on that, Digital Agency Day. Send your tweets through to us because we'll add them to the queue and make sure that we can get to as many questions as possible. All right, now on to introductions. So we're your 2 co-hosts. You heard from me at the very beginning, and you just heard from Justin. We both are here from Unbounce. Now, Unbounce, we are a landing page builder for marketers, and we helped organize this Digital Agency Day along with HubSpot. So again, feel free to tweet to either of us. Those are our our handles, and you'll see those in the lower third underneath our photos when we're chatting throughout the panel. So we're joining from the west coast of Canada. We're in Vancouver, BC. For support in the background, we have Stephanie Soretsky joining from our office in Montreal. We also have Lakai Newman, who is joining us from SODA, and he's here from Atlanta. And then onto our other panelists who are joining us from all around the world. We have Joe Johnston. Joe is joining us from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He is Vice President of Experience and Innovation for Universal Mind. He describes himself or his role as like not quite a designer, not quite a developer, but something in between. So he'll bring a pretty unique perspective to some of what we're going to discuss. We have Alex Lertzman, and Alex is joining us from the East Coast of North America in New York. And Alex is founding partner and chief strategist of Ready, Set, Rocket. He oversees the team there that fuels innovation and digital strategies for some really big brands like ACLU, Ann Taylor, Michael Kors, and more. We have Kane Ola, and Kane is founder of Red Badger. He's joining us from London. He is a self-proclaimed non-techie, more responsible for business operations. So once again, a slightly different perspective there. And he's kind of the, a fun fact, like sort of the perennial office hipster who's clogging the Red Badger mailroom with a constant influx of vinyl to add to his ever-increasing collection. And then last there, the photo on the right, we have Dave Benton joining us from San Diego. Dave's life mission is to create exceptional experiences across the board. Dave founded interactive design for MetaJive in 1999 to do exactly that for his clients and his team. So that's where we're at for introductions with everybody. Now let's switch over to the Hangout so you can see everyone who's joined us today. There we go. All right, and I'm going to hand it over to Justin to kickstart things with our first questions.
Great, thanks, Ryan. So let's kick things off. So this first question can be for everyone, but I'll ask Kane first. So what do you think clients will value the most in their agency relationships in 2016?
So I think the focus is about having an open, honest relationship. Transparency, but also sort of focusing on, our clients now are focusing on delivering value, so they need us to provide value to them, but also for us to facilitate providing value to their customers as well, and that's around, providing flexibility, adaptability, allowing them to respond to market demands a lot quicker. Customer demands in the digital age now is just changing at exponential rates, and we need to be able to provide or facilitate processes, approaches that will allow those customers to respond to that. So yeah, I think that is really, really important this year. It's about kind of sort of allowing people to collaborate and deliver value to their customers a lot quicker.
Joe, I saw you nodding your head a little bit throughout Kane's answer. One of the things he mentioned is that demands have changed a fair bit. Do you agree? Like things are quite different now in like the digital landscape?
Yeah, I think that's right in line with what Kane was talking about. Is the that need for, when we start talking about whether that's technology or whether that's different type of processes, I think things are changing so rapidly today that a lot of clients are looking for help, at least, help in doing those, but also help in mentoring and coaching them to actually be able to run those projects then internally as well. So the need is always going to be evolving, always going to be changing, and a lot of times those larger organizations aren't as nimble as a lot of these other a lot of us as agencies. We can be a little more nimble, a little bit more responsive to the technology and process changes, as well as being able to run through those types of initiatives. So yeah, I totally agree that it's going to be a very interesting 2016 as well as moving forward with all of the different types of things that are happening.
All right, so Alex or Dave, do either of you have anything that you'd like to add on to that so far as where you think clients will see the most value in their agency relationships in 2016?
I definitely wanted to echo sort of that nimbleness comment. Obviously, the bigger challenge for a brand is, you have an initiative, you have a project. It's so hard to assemble a team that's ready to go, but not just ready to go, but a cross-disciplinary team. And I think that's the main value that we're able to provide to a brand, is that we have a team of experts, strategists, marketers, developers, designers, UX folks that can actually execute, that have spent time executing in the trenches. And I think that's the one leg up that we will always have as agencies over a brand, is being able to sort of deliver on that. I think sort of like to that earlier question, why clients leave agencies, I think a lot of times, at least what we've seen, is sort of that dreaded reorg. And that's a big challenge, as you can spend years working with a client, and your relationship is not with a brand, your relationship is with an individual person or an individual team. And once that team changes, I think that's when the agency review happens, or somebody comes in with their own team. So, yeah.
I think as well, even in addition to just being nimble, it's also about being sheltered from the rest of the organization. So if we're working with a certain stakeholder in an organization, we don't get caught up in the muck and the mire of just getting the simplest things done that could seem impossible in a large organization. We're generally assigned very tactical goals with with one thing to accomplish, one goal, and we're focused strictly on doing that, as opposed to death by committee, right? No one thinks design gets better with 27 cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. Great. So, so Alex, you spoke a little bit about, what are some of the main reasons why clients leave their agencies? So why don't we expand a little bit on that, because that was also a question that we got submitted from our registrants. So can you expand on a little bit more on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen at least is the main reason that there's ever sort of that friction is, yes, you can potentially miss goals or you're not aligned with the brand. I think for the most part, when an agency is really at risk is that reorg. So obviously from our perspective, we're always planning that there will be a reorg. So how are we able to mitigate that risk? How can we get more entrenched in the organization, and how can we offer services that are going to that are hitting either multiple departments or that are laddering up sort of vertically as well, so we can have a conversation with, we're being hired by the director, how do we have a conversation with the SVP? Or if it's the SVP, how do we get laddered back up to the CMO? So if at any point in time there is a shift in the winds or there is an agency review, we're not just stuck with one team at an organizational level. And that's sort of the, our account team is constantly thinking about that and how to deliver that value across the organization.
Now, I mean, you talked about having to build relationships with more than just one individual in a company, because if your champion winds up leaving, I mean, that can be one of the issues with maintaining the relationship between the agency and the business. But I mean, with so many businesses bringing services in-house to save money, how, and again, I'm going to ask this to all four of you, how have you been able to position yourselves to compete? What services should absolutely stay with the agency to keep the client on the cutting edge, as well as really financially efficient? I'll single some person out. I know how it can be when you have four people like all waiting to answer. Joe, was that you who had started answering?
Yeah, I can jump in real quick, and everybody else can follow in. I think it becomes a very interesting conversation, especially here at Universal Mind, we do a lot of work and talk around customer experience and user experience, and that's a very delicate topic with businesses today because they need to own that themselves. But I think there's an interesting space that companies like us can fit in to be able to support their roles, as well as not only educating them on how to create or effectively create those customer experiences utilizing a wide range of different types of technology and services and platforms, but also coming in and guiding them in the process to create those. So understanding how to capture all that customer feedback and different types of inputs that are coming in. And back to the topic around the wide range of individuals are now in organizations. They used to be, they still are, some of them, very, very siloed. But now we're starting to see a much more merging effect of, marketing is working with business, working with IT, and now they're starting to join together to create the ultimate kind of joint experience across all those digital touch points. And I think us as agencies, the more we can, I think it's going to be even more encouraging for us to be able to facilitate that conversation across those companies, but it aids in us as well because now we have that communication across all those different sets of people rather than those individual silos. So yeah, it's an interesting time right now, but I think a lot of agencies are looking for and understanding how other businesses are not only growing internal teams. I think it's a delicate balance. Yes, they're saving money, but also it's also the influx of the agency services that need to help support that and mentor them as they continue on, and always be there to support for those larger projects that come in, because there's no way that a lot of these organizations are going to hire enough individuals to support them across all those initiatives that they have. So they're always going to be a need for agencies like us to support them.
I think the multidisciplined, cross-functional approach is really important there. A lot of clients that we speak to the UX and design is a perfect example. They've recognised the need for it, but they don't actually know how to get the best out of it, and they do operate in those silos. So you get lots of departments, be it creative, product, technology, that are very good at operating in their silos and patting themselves on the back of a job well done. But as a business, they're failing to deliver value to their customers because they're not working together. I think there's a real opportunity for agencies to come in, as Joe said, and help them with approach, help them get the best out of their own people. And often that is by working alongside them, putting in full multidiscipline teams, and you can, demonstrate by doing, and you can show them a new way that can deliver value to their clients a lot quicker. So I think we're seeing a lot of opportunity in that space, which is around multidisciplined, cross-functional teams, and agencies are perfectly placed to provide those services to big clients.
I was going to piggyback onto Joe's comment about just the services that we provide for a client, because it used to be build some flash banners, make a website, build a landing page, and now it's actual product as brand with the digital experiences we're providing. So for instance, if you look in the cable space, Comcast is a big cable company here in America, and one of their key differentiators is their X1 cable box, and the whole project is all about interface. It's all about design. It's about meeting customer demand through that. So obviously they couldn't outsource that entire project, but they couldn't do it all themselves in-house, no matter how big a robust team they had. So to Kane's point about collaboration with in-house teams and out-of-house teams becoming a major trend, that's going to be very, very important. Keeping as much design leadership in-house, I think, is important, and I think we're finally starting on the agency side to see qualified clients who used to be on the agency side or have been around in digital long enough where they have experience building brands, building companies, creating digital experiences. So together we're able to provide a lot more, because when you have a client who you can share a vision with, who can extrapolate and actually kind of jam together, you're going to get a lot more out of the relationship. So having those qualified clients, those people that are up here where you can have the peer conversations, is a breath of fresh air. But there's only so many of those people, and you need the leadership throughout. So I think that's really where agencies help augment.
And Alex, so you haven't had a chance to chime in on this. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think you're muted.
I think your mic is muted there.
Yep.
I'll ask Stephanie if she can unmute
Sorry
you.
about
There
that.
you go.
There you go.
I think the fundamental issue that a brand has is, can they recruit, can they retain, can they train, can they mentor cross-discipline teams? Like, can they not get mired in the bureaucracy? And I think somebody alluded to that already. It's, can you give them the mind share so they can focus on the task? And on the agency side, you create a dedicated team for a client to be able to solve any challenge, and that's a huge luxury. And then the other thing is that the team that you're creating for them is a team that's experienced in doing this over and over again. They've been in the trenches together, and they've worked on that kind of work already. They worked on similar clients, different clients, it doesn't matter, but they are able to bring something to the surface that allows them to be incredibly quick and efficient and knowledgeable about bringing this together. And that's something that a lot of our clients are starting to do that, but I would say that that's in the minority in general, because it does take a significant effort to truly build a team of really smart, hungry individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. We have several different themes for the questions that were submitted. We just spent a lot of time talking about the relationships between agencies and clients. There are a lot of questions about technology and platforms, digital capabilities, things like fee structure or general operations. So Justin's going to kick us off with a question to you guys about technology.
Sure, yeah. So we just spent a lot of time talking about how kind of, on the client side, there are a lot of changes. And in agencies, we must evolve to make sure that we're still offering them the type of service that they're going to expect. But in order to kind of support what agencies do, what are the trends you guys are seeing in terms of the new technologies or platforms that agencies are adopting? Whether to improve their operations, so things like project management or time tracking, or maybe even to help support their services, so maybe like ad platforms, creative platforms. I kind of want to let everybody know what you guys are seeing there in terms of technology procurement, on the agency side. And how about I'll give this one to Kane. You can kick it off.
Yeah, so I think there's even starting a business now is so cheap because there's so many sort of cloud-based tools that negate the need for expensive internal infrastructure. And there's so many tools out there that can help improve your operations. We're always looking for new ways of working, new tools that solve operational issues inside the business. So, for example, last year, we wanted to improve sort of internal external collaboration, and so we adopted Slack, which has effectively replaced email internally, but also allowed us to kind of bring our clients into single channels, and we can communicate across teams so much more rapidly. Slack has literally transformed the way that we deal with our clients and how we communicate. And recruitment is a kind of a huge overhead for us. We brought in Workable, which allows us to very easily kind of post job ads to multiple job posts all over different services, but also then track those through kind of a Kanban approach. So it's really, really clear exactly the sort of progress that we're making with each individual that we're starting to interview. And then obviously sales, which is equally as important as recruitment. It's always recruitment and sales are the big challenges for agencies. And so we brought in Pipedrive, which is a very popular tool amongst all of the SODA agencies actually, and SODA partner with Pipedrive. But again, that's been really transformational in how we manage opportunities and leads and manage the sort of the pipeline from from initial meeting through qualification to either winning or losing the deal. So we're looking at things like that all of the time. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff out there that can help with improving operations.
All right, so Kane, the perspective you bring is definitely like an operational one. Now I'm curious, Joe, as kind of not a designer, not a developer, sort of in between, where technology is concerned, what about you? What do you see as kind of new and emerging technologies to strengthen your offering to your clients?
Yeah, so I want to. Yeah, I think Kane mentioned Slack. I think that's a big tool that we use here at University of Mind as well. So, so it's definitely a huge tool for us. We're a distributed workforce, so we have our offices, but we also have a lot of people across the United States and Canada. So it makes the collaboration really quick and effective and easily. It was a bit of a challenge to kind of go into that. We've used a lot of other types of Slack type of tools to integrate. Obviously, we've been through the Basecamps, been through the even the Yammers and all the other types of different tools that we use, and Slack has really filled the spot for us. But one thing that we did is we had to actually set some guidelines to actually how to use it effectively, and I think that might be a little bit of a tool. If anybody jumps in and uses Slack, there's great things about it, but if you set up a structure and how things are set up, that can really improve the efficiencies across the board for a lot of different individuals. And and from the sales side of things, as well as some others, we use a lot of all the Google products and also the Salesforce products as well to help facilitate those. There's a lot of great integrations there, and even on the marketing side, integrating things like Marketo into your Salesforce automation stuff. There's a lot of things that are starting to evolve that are starting to tie more pieces of that together to help facilitate everything from a business funnel to actually being more productive and effective. So yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there, but a lot of times you have to try the ones that fit your team and model the best. Some work great, some may not work for you as they are. So.
Now, Alex, question for you. So if your agency could invest in one new technology, one new product for 2016, what would it be? Have you thought about that at all?
I mean, it's a tough question because it's tough to settle on just one. I know what we're investing in 2016 is primarily in terms of I think we've invested in obviously sort of the project management, financial management, all of that kind of stuff. But in terms of technology to help our clients, I think we're starting to build out a lot of stuff using our own IP, which I did not want to do for years, and we were just trying to sort of figure it out. And most of it is sort of around how do we do better attribution analysis, how do we do better customer journey mapping, how do we do brand equity modeling, sort of like all of the kinds of tools that might live in a specific silo or might just sort of be in the infancy, and it's sort of moving the agency from, hey, how do we make sort of all the tools that used to exist for pure performance marketing to overall brand marketing, and I think that that's a big investment for us this year.
Great, and so Dave, if you had to suggest, one investment based on kind of what your fellow panelists have talked about to the agencies that are listening in today, what would you recommend?
Well, we're doubling down right now on apps, but really that means utility. So whether it's Android apps, iOS apps, different web tools, web ecosystems are actually about to launch something that's really big that is a seamless experience across the web to your app that's going to get put on multiple devices. But I think where we're thinking tech-wise, it's whatever allows you or your customer to add more value. So by adding utility to someone's life is just the best way we can do that.
Awesome. Cool. So let's switch gears a little bit, and this was also a very hotly, I guess, questioned area of questions, if that makes any sense. But people are wondering if you guys have noticed any trends in terms of if there's been an increase in demand from clients for certain types of digital services or offerings. And so, Joe, why don't you take a first stab at this one?
Yeah, I can jump in. My perspective might be a little different than everyone else, so it might be interesting to get everyone else's opinion as we talk here as well. So one of the things that we don't traditionally do a lot of marketing type of experiences. We traditionally do a lot of software applications or internal applications or overall starting to blend those. So we've seen that the increase in, like I said earlier, that holistic experience that people are trying to strive for, but from a consumer perspective, and even employee internal experiences are looking for that as well, improving those. But some of the ones that we're seeing is this. I think it's great because I love the area of the blending of the digital and physical experiences, so they can combine those together. So effectively creating a great digital experience that supports the physical experience, and that could be in the retail environment, could be in an airport, could be just about anywhere that you see these experiences starting to kind of latch onto, and that bleeds into service design. I know a lot of us have a wide depth and breadth of service design capabilities, but it's starting to blend this great ecosystem of experiences, both digital and physical, and that involves a lot of other technology. So you could be looking at, obviously, the big conversation right now, retail is iBeacons, how to do micro geolocation and track those things, and not just do pushing of advertisements and coupons, but starting to leverage micro geolocation from an experience level, making it context aware. That's a big conversation. Even getting into artificial intelligence and even voice design too. I think there was quite a few articles around designing for voice and giving it a personality. I think that's going to be a big piece. We're seeing people dive into that a little bit. How does these different types of mechanisms of interactions start to blend together? And I think those are a very interesting services that people are asking about. Right now it's in the infancy, and they're starting to kind of look at those and explore those. But I think as they start to mature, we're going to see more and more of those. Obviously, things like VR and 360 video are starting to take off like crazy. Alex and I were talking earlier about that being a very interesting space. We're seeing more and more individuals explore and do some other things with that. So those are the types of services we're seeing on our end, and of course all the other advances in technology as we see different types of devices and mechanisms. But those are some of the key ones that we're seeing on our end.
I think, just to add to that, I think a lot of our clients are also sort of becoming a bit more open-minded and looking to us to kind of deliver new approaches. So, a lot of our engagements previously have been around improving existing products and services. And we're seeing a bit of a shift now to actually, leaning on agencies to help them introduce, brand new products and services that they hadn't yet, thought of, or that they didn't know there was a demand for, and using sort of innovative approaches such as lean startup, to build labs and kind of get a bit more experimental in trying to look at, trends. And it's a lot about approach as well as, coming to us with a predefined solution or a predefined problem. They're looking to us to actually help them define what that problem is in the first place.
Dave, I mean, that goes along. I mean, this topic goes along with what you were saying before about the technology being like apps that you may be creating for like a more cohesive experience. Is there anything else that you would like to add to what Joe and Kane were saying?
I mean, Kane hit it right where they're positioning themselves in a way to define the problem as well as the solution, and work with companies really on utilizing our skill set to better their business as a whole. And being involved early gives you the foresight to not fix X, but define that it's Y that really should be fixed, which is affecting X. So every aspect, from customer service, customer experience, whatever is specific to your company, if you're involved at the strategic level, you're going to be able to execute at a better level. And I think that's really the point where they're kicking ass and driving home.
This actually segues quite well into a question that's come in through Twitter. So Scott sent a tweet in and asked, how far into the future are you doing strategic planning? So I mean, if the biggest impact you can have is being involved at that level, you know, how far do you think ahead, Alex?
All of our planning engagements are about 2 years out. We think technology, you just can't predict anything beyond 2 years. We can have a conversation, especially in financial services. We might go a little bit beyond 2 years, and that's probably just because the industry takes so long to move. Outside of financial services, I would say that our typical planning process is 2 years, because anything we will propose to you that you will integrate, you will need to probably throw out and start from scratch 2 years from now. So that's been a good sort of number that we've used internally.
Cool. So building off of the question of what our clients now want, what's, I guess, the flip side of that is, what trends are you seeing in terms of what the hottest new thing that agencies are offering now in terms of digital services? I mean, a few years ago we could say it was social media. What are you kind of seeing right now, you know, for better or for worse? You know, what is every agency kind of now offering as a part of their tool set for clients? And why don't you continue talking here, Alex? I think you might have some insight on this one.
Yeah, I mean, we started out as a strategy agency. We were not even doing any production work, and so it's interesting. We've grown into a full-service digital agency, whatever that means now. But so we've grown into that, and it's interesting to see a lot of digital agencies sort of went the other way. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other. We all ended up in the same place, where agencies started to add strategic services and really doing an outstanding job doing digital strategy. And I think that's the right thing to do for the client. Also think that customer journey mapping and sort of doing attribution analysis and all of those really nerdy data things, which were sort of, when we started out, that was really our bread and butter. I'm actually glad to see that that's not just a trend, that all agencies are now providing, a lot of agencies are providing that to the clients. And I think that just makes better marketers, better brands, and better agencies. So I'm glad to see that trend continue.
Now that actually that segues really well into one of the other categories of questions that we had. Working here at Unbounce, I mean, we work with a fair number of agencies, and you know, we're a landing page builder, and they often ask, like, how should we be structuring our fees? How do we bill clients for the work that we're doing? So given kind of that angle, like the strategic services, the journey mapping, etc. Let's see, Dave, I'm going to send this one over to you. What fee structures are most digital agencies using versus the ones that clients tend to prefer?
So because we're based on a partnership model, so we bill hourly, we base all our projects on time, which might not be the most popular trend in this room. I think there's a lot of value propositions that are floating around, going to value-based pricing and things like that on the agency side. For us to effectively be able to be a partner and know what's going on, it does go back to that long-term planning, and it goes down to setting expectations. We're going to use your team for this. We're going to have this going on, and consistently the agency going back and forth saying, have we thought about this opportunity? We can drive some revenue here. We can drive brand awareness here. Focus long-term on the bigger picture together, and that's what's keeping people going together. So as far as fee structures go, being aware and growing that relationship that, hey, maybe we don't do this project here because we're going to do that bigger project here, or we should do both. We had a conversation yesterday with a client about the project that was too expensive not to do, because it was certainly a little bit out of their budget right now, and they were having. But when you actually ran the numbers, if we were at all effective on doing the project, the trickle down effect, recurring revenue, yada yada yada, it made a lot of sense. So.
It's interesting to hear you end on that note, considering what you were saying at the beginning was more of like a time-based structure for pricing, whereas that sounds like it would be something that would benefit from more of a value-based pricing structure. So is there anyone that disagrees with time-based versus value-based instead?
Well, I'll jump in. So we moved away completely from, unless we're really getting pushed into this, we've moved into value-based pricing towards the end of last year and sort of readjusting our rates into the new year. And for us, it was a matter of, if we're putting incredibly senior strategic resources on it, we don't want to have those resources compared to what somebody can get from their global AOR. And that was something we were coming up against as we were getting DAOR relationships was, well, our AOR is able to give us this rate. So for us, it was, we want to maintain this particular margin. For us to maintain this particular margin, this is how quickly, with sort of taking risk into account, this is how quickly we can execute this project, if it's a project. And this is what we need to charge for it, and trying to get out of this game of somebody comparing this like a menu of, well, this agency can do it for that, because the reality is we're providing a value to our clients, and if we're able to provide that value, we can do it and we could do it internally at a lower time because we either have IP on this, or we've done this 100 times before. We're using more senior leadership that's integrated into this. Then we want to be able to, we want to price ourselves accordingly. And I think that was a big shift for us. With that said, the one area we're not able to move away from our base pricing is strictly on the retainer model, because it's really hard to, and probably about 35 to 40% of our revenues from retainers is clients don't understand how to move away from that on the retainer side. Neither do we, honestly. But on the project side, we definitely moved away from that.
See,
and Alan, I was just going to say, I think when on the retainer base, it's about focus and it's about fixed set of resources. So even though you're not moving away, there's still a tremendous value on both ends for having 10 minds, 20 minds, 50 people all focused on one problem, on one client, on one thing. So there's that internal learning that even though it doesn't translate to hours, it translates to synergy.
Good use of air quotes there. On the topic of retainer, we actually have another panel in about 2.5 hours. So we'll be talking about strategies to grow your retainer. So if you guys would like to join us, that'd be great to have you send in some questions and participate with the panel there. So moving along to, let's say, kind of our second last category, talking about operations. Kane, obviously, you're the operational guy. So I'm wondering, what are the top trends that you're seeing in terms of agencies improving things like talent management practices, specifically tied to recruiting, retention, and training?
Yeah, so recruitment is one of our biggest challenges alongside of sales. And I'm sure all agencies experience the same problems. Finding quality people at the right price is incredibly difficult at the moment. And so, what we've done is a number of things. The first one is actually brought recruitment in-house. We've found that utilising agencies is both expensive and inefficient. So we've brought a recruitment in-house that, those resources that are just dedicated to recruitment can live and breathe our culture, and they can learn over time exactly what we're looking for, and they become much more refined with regard to the efficiency in which they can understand whether a candidate's the right person or not. We've also switched our recruitment strategy to an events-based strategy. So we run a number of community events around thought leadership in the tech community, in the project management community, in the creative community in London. And we found that that is really, really efficient in finding good quality senior talent. And then on the flip side to that, obviously there's a huge overhead in finding very experienced quality people. So, rather than buy them, we also build them. So we have created a number of partnerships with universities in London. We engage with students, straight after their first year, and they do a summer internship with us. And then at the end of that summer internship, if they make the grade, we then give them a part-time job throughout the rest of their university term to term. So all the way from the end of their first year, beginning of second year, they work with us until they graduate, at which point they have a job that they can walk into if they're good enough. But also, they have 2+ years industry experience as soon as they've graduated. And we found that that's been really powerful. That's actually generating about 6 to 8 new hires for us per year at the moment. So just being a bit more innovative with regards to how you do internship programs and running events to find the more senior resources, and having in-house recruiters. Those are the 3 sort of key findings that we found to provide us with the most value.
Great. So another operations question, and I spent a little bit of a time at an agency before joining Unbounce, and there was just certain capabilities that our agency didn't have. So we would need to outsource them. So essentially, an agency hiring maybe another agency to help their clients. So Joe, what are you seeing in terms of what's being outsourced and what's being strengthened in-house right now in agencies?
Yeah, so kind of from our perspective, one of the things that we're seeing as being strengthened is we do a lot of agile lean process. So one of the things that we're starting to grow more into is actually doing what's called safe agile, which is a scaled agile framework for process. So actually incorporating that into our agency model to actually increase the efficiency. So we're agile and iterative through our process to a lot of our projects, and that's another piece that we're offering up to our clients, is injecting that into their teams as well, both from a process orientation, so we can actually have a resource do this process management and agile, so we're helping run those projects effectively, but also mentoring and coaching them and teaching them how to do those practices as well. That's one thing that we're building and strengthening inside of our agency because of the efficiencies that are gained once you have that structured process in place, and it's becoming more of a kind of a standard usage across larger organizations. So it became a very interesting process to start talking at the highest level, what's called the portfolio level, with all the executives, and as those flow down to all those projects, it becomes a very interesting model. And one of the things we're seeing, obviously being more and more outsourced that we're doing, is as we started talking about some of those other technologies, things like anything with that VR space and those different types of hardware that you need those cameras to actually capture those types of things. So more of those specialized equipment as well as services. When we go and create these experiences, sometimes we'll go and do that. And like I said earlier, that digital physical interaction is becoming more and more apparent. And a lot of times we're partnering with industrial design firms to actually create the digital experience, and that great formation of a great digital design equals a great physical design. They got to be created together. So a lot of times we have some partnerships with industrial designers to come in and help us create those products as well. So those are some of the areas that we're seeing on our end starting to grow and outsource as well as grow internally as well.
All right, thank you. Now we've gone through like a number of different topics, talking about relationships, kind of building and maintaining them with your clients, the types of services you have to offer to continually provide value to your clients, fee structures, digital capabilities. So as a final question to everybody, given that a lot of people are looking at bringing services in-house, we did talk about competitive advantages, but I'd like to end on this note, so we'll go through everybody here. But what could be the most important competitive advantage for digital agencies in 2016? Alex, let's start with you. Oh, you've got your mic muted here, so give Steph a second. All right, perfect.
I think it really is innovation. Is like how can you bring ideas to the table that someone that's siloed in an organization is just not able to take a step back and just sort of see the big picture? And you're bringing this perspective from working with other clients, from having a team that can actually deliver that perspective that somebody internally might not have. And I think that as long as you can sort of hold on to that idea and grow that idea within that organization, I think that's the main value that the providers need.
Awesome. Kane, over to you next.
Yeah, so I think, again, just not to keep on banging the value drum, but it is, it's about, great customer experience, agility and speed to market, and sort of the adoption of, new innovative technology all wrapped together. Helping big clients not work in silos and deliver cross-functionally and ultimately deliver value to their customers faster. That's the key thing for this year for me.
Dave?
Yeah, I think anytime you're working with a client to add the value is the competitive difference. So agencies are much less order takers. I know when we first started, it was we were servicing agencies, ad agencies coming to us and saying, we have this experience that's designed this way, and build it here. And then over time, we've expanded more and more to the fact of, hey, let's help you solve this problem. Let's see how we can innovate. Let's see how we can iterate. And it's not just about being executor. So I think to be a good partner, you have to be involved. You have to have a little skin in the game. You have to be on the same page with the client, which takes a lot of time to come up to speed. So I think that's the biggest difference. That's a competitive advantage, is being a partner and not just being an order taker.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that innovative part, as well as, I think maybe Dave mentioned earlier, but asking that question why, and I think that's where we come in, and we have that advantage because a lot of times we don't have the blinders on working at an organization and have our marching orders to create something. A lot of times we come in and ask those questions why and challenge those decisions to make sure that they're the right ones, because we're coming in to make sure that they're successful in whatever they're creating, and we're doing them a service by helping them figure that out. And I think that's where us as agencies really start creating that competitive advantage and do start bringing together the best ideas possible, and not just an execution side of things.
All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I think, I mean, to your point there, Dave, no longer being exclusively executors, but being far more involved in strategic planning. Unanimously across the entire panel, you all brought this opinion that, like, the outside perspective, something you mentioned early on, like the agility, the nimbleness, those are all very, very strong advantages for agencies to capitalize on. So I'm curious to see how things will continue to evolve and change there. So we did have a handful of questions on Twitter that we weren't able to get to, but throughout the day, I mean, obviously we're going to be participating on Twitter, and we will answer a lot of the questions that were submitted that we weren't able to get to. And for the four of you as well, I mean, if you'd like to hop on Twitter and check out the Digital Agency Day hashtag, there's some really great questions here. It'd be great to drive some further conversation around them. So thank you so much for joining us. It was great to be able to get everyone together here. A really varied panel so far as experience and perspective, and then obviously, location as well, because there are trends based on region, so it's wonderful to have everybody participate from across the world. Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, so thanks for joining us. We have a webinar with Michael Lagarde coming up right after this in about 10 minutes. So check out the Digital Agency Day website. If you haven't been able to sign up for that, go check it out. I'll be back online with him shortly. And then in about 2 hours, we have our second panel where we're going to be discussing how to grow your retainer fee. Which, as you mentioned, is a really important part in preserving the relationship and growing your business as an agency. So thanks so much, guys. Look forward to chatting with you soon. And thanks for your perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.